The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series, Control Shift, How Cloud Technology Has Shifted Key Roles in the Workplace. In today's webinar, we will be talking about the shifting role of the IT professional. My name is Sarah and I will be helping out with today's presentation. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items and let you know how you can participate in the session. This webinar is being recorded. We will provide you a link to the recording as soon as it is available. You have joined today's webinar listening through your computer speaker system by default. If you would like to listen using your phone, locate your audio pane and select Use Telephone. The dial-in information and access code will then be displayed. Attendees will be in listen-only mode. We invite you to ask the questions about the presentation using the questions pane. Simply type in your question and click Send. At the end of the webinar, we will do a question and answer session and take as many questions as possible. Now let me introduce you to our presenters today. Andrew Ford is the IT Client Solutions Specialist at Global Knowledge Canada. He has been with the company for over 10 years, and as our resident IT expert, Andrew consults and assists in building prescriptive learning plans that will ensure the successful deployment of new technology. And as our special guest today, we have Vijay Kartagesu. Vijay is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Cloud Dynamics, Inc. Vijay is a licensed professional engineer with more than 15 years of experience in large IT infrastructure architecture, design, and operations. Before starting Cloud Dynamics, Vijay held senior management positions in both the private and public sectors and holds an electrical engineering degree from the University of Waterloo and an MBA from Wilfrid Laurier. Again, our presentation today is the shifting role of the IT professional. Gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you, Vijay, for joining me here today.
Thank you.
We're going to have a bit of fun. We're going to take a look at our agenda here today. IT professionals today. So we'll have a take a look and see what your roles are like. Then we're going to have a quick look at the cloud and the shift for IT organizations. So from an organizational level, what is changing? What is going on? Then we'll have a look at the cloud and the shift for IT professionals. So this gets down to the individual role, what's going on and what's happening there. And finally, we will get ready for the shift and see how we can get people sort of into that space where they need to be. So that's sort of our agenda for today. So the current role of an IT professional is as a builder, a planner, a developer, maintenance, support. It's keeping the system up and running and keeping things going and working to provide that IT infrastructure. And that's really where they find themselves today. Their mandate and everything that they sort of roll around is efficiency, uptime, downtime, output, making sure that these services are running smoothly, making sure these services are up and running and available for the end user community. And that's what they sort of focus around. We find that in a lot of IT organizations, it's very solo. That we've got a storage group, we've got a desktop group, we've got a networking group, and this is a security group. And these different groups sort of work on their own and work in their own silos to figure out what they need to do to make sure that they've got the bits and pieces here. Vijay, you've worked in a couple of different areas of background. How do you see this in today's?
It has been set up traditionally to align with the technologies at that time. If you look at the traditional technology, there's a different box for switch and different box for firewall. Everything is different silo technologies, and you have to have specialists in that technology. So the organizations were organized to handle the technology as is. But now, when we talk about cloud, all of these things are going to be changing.
That's right. Yeah, and we'll see that change as we go through here, definitely. So, okay. So from a service delivery point of view, it's a service that's been designed to sort of keep going, designed to remain static and non-changing, to make sure that these services are available and keep getting offered, and that we have the right uptime, and the hard drives are backed up when they need to be backed up, and the tapes are replaced when they need to be replaced, and we want to keep the status quo going as we move along. Okay, This is not a structure that sort of allows itself for innovation. This is not a structure that allows itself to bring new stuff in, because new stuff means problems, and problems mean downtime, and that's exactly what IT is sort of not set up for. One of the interesting things when you start to take a look at this model is that even though we may take a look and find that IT and business seem to be aligned, they're not necessarily aligned. They're sort of in parallel. So we take a look at this slide, for instance. We've got the business need is they want collaboration. The IT focus is keeping the email server up and running and making that available. Although these overlap and they seem to be going to the same thing, it's not necessarily the same goal. The goal of the IT is to keep the email server online. The business need is more collaboration. If we were to change that and ask the IT to work towards collaboration, then maybe what they've come up with email services is not necessarily what the best thing is. So we want to take a look at what happens, and I think cloud is going to give us this option when we take a look here. When we align IT more to the business. When we say IT, you know what? We want collaboration. What can you have to offer us? Instead of keep the email server running, please. Yeah. So that gives us sort of an idea, sort of a focus to sort of do work on here. It's difficult to be proactive in this environment, and I probably, you know, I can't actually hear you on the phone, but I can probably know what you're thinking, which is that's all very well. They give us these sort of umbrellas to say, you know, be more collaborative or be more, you know, investigative in these servers. But at the end of the day, you're an IT shop, and you know, you want to offer service delivery. You want to make sure that you know you don't put cogs into the wheels. You want to make sure that new services are up and running. And running a new service can be risky. What if it fails? What if it doesn't work? You know, especially when you've got thousands of users. And I used to make the comment that not documenting something like a mouse click is fine, but when you multiply that by 1,000 users and 10% of them call the help desk to ask if it's okay to click OK, then we run into sort of service problems. We run into overload. So, you know, we've got to make sure that everything we put into an IT is adopted properly, the training and everything else. So that sort of, you know, there's a negative connotation that way. Aligning with business needs is not always rewarded either, especially if it doesn't go correctly. Now, it puts stress on the end user. So, you know, we've got to get out of this a little bit. So this brings us to really what we're discussing today. This brings us to cloud computing and what cloud computing is going to offer and how it's going to change what we do in the world today. So we've gone through a little bit of an evolution. We've gone from mainframe to mini computers to the PC era into the internet era and, you know, Web 2.0, and we find ourselves today sort of in the cloud. A lot of people get this feeling the cloud has come out of left field at them, that this is something that suddenly appeared on the horizon, and all of a sudden we are cloud this and cloud that. Vijay, I'm going to bring you in here again. Is cloud brand new? Is it, you know, where did cloud come from?
No, I always start when we talk about cloud, cloud is not a technology, as you exactly say. It's an evolution of a business. It's a business model. And most of the technologies, they were there already. For example, the word cloud, and we talk about utility computing. And the utility computing word, it was coined in 1961 by John McCarthy, who is a scientist, and he said that one day compute power will be consumed or delivered as a utility. And that's why we are here.
Like turn the lights on.
Turn the lights off, and you just start consuming compute power. And we are here now. And the cloud, if you look at the technologies, it doesn't use anything new. The virtualization has been implemented by IBM a long time ago. Time sharing and utility computing, all these technologies, we packaged it in a business model. That's what cloud is. We are going to talk about. One of the major things clouds also bring compared to, we talk about is a fifth wave in the computer change. You know, starting from mainframe, mini computers, PC era, internet era, this is the cloud era. But there's a major difference in the cloud era. Most of the other changes are technology changes, impacted more technology-oriented changes. But the cloud is bringing in the entire business change. So it's not just impacting technology, it's impacting every aspect of the business.
Yeah. Now, we have technology that's come up to support some of this, but it's not really the driving change.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. So what we're saying here is it's changed the business model. That most pieces of the cloud have been around for a while, some of them for decades. So that, you know, it's basically, it's an idea of having access to information, you know, where and when I want it. You know, supporting technology. We've got a faster internet backbone. You know, we've got high speed around the place. We've got larger storage devices. We've got an anywhere infrastructure. You know, I have worked at a coffee shop for a while. You know, if they got Wi-Fi, they got coffee, I'm good. And we've converged some of these things together. You know, people are using different technology in different ways. We've extended this to different people. But it really isn't the technology that's made the change here. It is, as you're saying, the business model.
And also the applications. Now, usually people consume IT in an application form. You go to Google, you go to Twitter, you go to Microsoft Word or Exchange, you don't see the back end. The applications itself actually evolved to handle this kind of new infrastructure.
To sort of a web, you know, grab it with a browser.
And you go to a coffee shop and check your email.
Yeah.
And it used to be you had to VPN in, or you actually go to your computer at your work to check all these things. Now the application has changed, so that's driving the whole the behavior.
Excellent, excellent. So I want to make sure, and in fact, just before we jump into this slide, let's bring up our first poll question, if we could. Because we're going to talk very, very briefly here about some particular standards, some particular names, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And some of these, I'm sure a lot of people with us today are familiar with these. They've run into some of these terms already, but maybe not everybody has. So let's just have a quick look at who our audience is. Sarah, can we put that up on the screen? Excellent, thank you. So maybe we could just take a quick moment. I want to sort of get an idea here of who I'm talking to. You know, who's on the line here? We've got IT support, we've got IT management, human resources, business analyst, or project manager, or other. And I realize that we may have, I invited the people from our previous podcast here, the business analyst group, to join us today. And I think they might be interested in some of the things we're talking about. So we may have some business analysts and project managers here as well. We got we're just waiting for a few more people to sort of click in and get some numbers up here. Make sure we have a chance to sort of read the question and figure out. Okay. So in a moment, we should be able to get some results on the screen here. So that's interesting. We got 31 who are actually in IT support, which is great. And I had a feeling we were going to have a fairly large number from the VA PM community, which is great. Fantastic to have you here because, you know, a lot of this is for projects we're working on. It's good to see the other side. We've got IT management, and I can understand your interest in this. Nobody from human resources. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. And we got other, and we could speculate for hours what other is, but you didn't find yourself in the other roles, and that's fine. And I'm happy to have you here as well. Definitely. Thank you for joining us.
I think after this webinar, people can go and tell the human resources people you have to be in here.
You should come watch the yeah, definitely come back. Because this is how we're going to take a look at how people should be interacting in the next little while. This is going to affect them as much as everybody else, I think, in many ways. So let's go back to my slides here. I've got some definitions, and those of you who are already in IT and are familiar with this, bear with us for a couple of minutes. The rest of you who aren't, let's make sure that you have some basic definitions for when we move forward here. So we've got the National Institute for National Standards here, the NIST definitions to start off with, where we're looking at software as a service. And software as a service, we're talking about a fully baked service. When we talk about platform as a service, we're talking about somewhere you can build a service and make it available externally. I've used the example there of Microsoft Azure, which offers an online platform for development. And then we've got infrastructure as a service, where we have the ability to sort of put our own platform together. And one sort of builds on top of the other. I actually used an analogy this morning where software as a service was, you know, cookies. Platform as a service was, you know, ability to bake cookies, and infrastructure as a service was, you know, the oven, and you could actually buy your oven there. So, I mean, that's really one stacks up on the other. What what does this mean to a lot of people? You know, who's going to be using what?
No, I think these words are, in reality, people don't realize that we are actually using some of these services already. For example, when you go to Twitter and Facebook, you're using something similar to software as a service, and
creating something online.
Creating something, and there are lots of developers that are using some platform as a services. But let me start from the traditional world. Where the cloud going in a technology point of view. And traditionally, you have servers and each and every project, and they have an application. They put them in a dedicated physical server, physical infrastructure. I call them snowflakes. You know, every project have this individual setups. And then we moved out there, and then we went to virtualization. So what virtualization? When you look at the physical server, you have one application running. Let's say it's 2% utilization. The 98% you're just wasting there. So virtualization allows you to take that physical server and put more applications there securely. And so everybody moved to virtualization. So now that that's good, you know, we are virtualizing. We are getting more assets used. So now what? Now it comes the automation and orchestration. I want to do most of these things in an automated, standardized fashion. So in a technologically, what cloud is bringing to the whole process is more automation and orchestration. Then people think, if I want to do that, you know, the projects, as the project managers, you know, when you want to deploy an application, they go through, I want to buy this, I want to buy servers and hardware. Now, do I care? I don't really care what server it is hosted. I don't care what type of infrastructure these guys are running. I just want this much of power, compute power, this much of memory, this much of CPU, and this of storage, and let the IT department take care of that.
Do what I'm very good at.
Yeah, that's what the infrastructure as a service is. IT department allowed to have that. Because for them it's now a problem. You know, every project come back with this individual requirement and telling them you should use this hardware. And they shouldn't be worrying about. So that's where the infrastructure as a service comes in. And same as the platform. And we shouldn't be worrying about what type of database is there. You know, if you have an application and there's a database platform, just use that platform to develop your application. So so people, it's an abstraction layer. So people focus on what they're good at and deliver that.
Okay. Excellent. So there are some other terms, because I know they come up on a regular basis. You know, we talked about the IIS and the PAAS and the SaaS, but the other terms get thrown around are things like public cloud and private cloud. And I've said, you know, a public cloud is the idea of, you know, and it's for the general public. We mentioned email, we mentioned Twitter, and a few things like that. And I've got photo storage as an example here. And on the enterprise level, Salesforce.com as a you know, CRM online, or Office 365 as an online office program. And then we got private cloud. People start to get confused between, you know, where does one stop and the other begin. Can you?
So I'm going to approach it in two different ways.
Okay.
People usually look at public and private cloud, and they define it by security. So there are some data, some application, you want to have it securely in your private because there's a mission critical application. You cannot have it in a public environment. Public means shared. Private means not shared, or shared, only to you. So there are some applications you don't want to share it. Some of them you can. So that's security and privacy point of view. I'm also going to tell you one other thing that you have to look at. The architecture and design of a public and private is completely different. 90% of the enterprise applications today, they are not public cloud ready. What I mean is, most of the applications are designed and built for the traditional way of doing
protected by something else.
And they depend more on the infrastructure availability, infrastructure performance. The modern applications, that the applications are being developed, or the new ones, they don't rely on the infrastructure. They are infrastructure agnostic. And so what's going to happen is, any new application development, they're going to develop the application for the public cloud. So they don't really rely, you don't have to have this high EHA environment, they will just use it. The existing application that the enterprises have, they cannot move to public cloud. It's not, regardless of security or privacy, they have to stay in a private cloud mode because of the architecture and design. So that's going to happen is a hybrid, and we'll talk about it. You are going to have some application on private, and some of them are on the public cloud.
So very quick question though, when I'm talking private cloud, does that mean that it's inside my four walls of my company?
So inside your control. Even without cloud, some companies, they actually have it in their four walls, their data center. Some people actually outsource it or actually host it in some other, for example, whether it's IBM or HP, they host it in their data centers, or Q9, for example. So it doesn't matter where they host, they control the environment. So inside four walls, in your control.
Fantastic. Clear up to do. We have two other ones that come up.
And the community cloud, when I mentioned other than the architecture, it's about sharing. So public cloud is the infrastructure shared by everybody. So there you have some security concerns if the application is not built for that. Private cloud, you don't share it with anybody. But there are some organizations, you have a community. For if you look at the health sector, there may be a hospital group that they want to share an HIS system, a health information system. Or there are, every industry you can find these groups, they get together and they can share information. That's where the community cloud, because their security and privacy policies are the same and similar, they're okay to share.
I can think of a lot of different types of businesses, which would probably, like healthcare we mentioned, legal maybe.
Legal.
Yes, other ones would probably benefit.
And the hybrid cloud is now you have public cloud, private cloud, community cloud. So when you look at your existing, I call it workload or application list, there are some of them have to be private. Some of them you can put it in a community cloud and share with the other one. Some of them you really don't care because you can put it in a public cloud. For example, a web server. Without any personal information or any secure information, you can use a public cloud. So based on the application workload and the architecture, you can put it in multiple cloud and manage it. That's what they call it hybrid. It's actually a model. You take advantage of these different models, whatever suits best for you.
Part of that management, I think, we're going to look at in the next little while there, some of the roles we get into. Definitely. Okay. So what we have here is sort of looking at, we talked before about making sure that IT was more aligned with the business goals. I think that's what cloud really gives us an opportunity here. We get to align because, again, as you said, we no longer have to be able to sort of worry about storage, worry about computing, desktop, hardware, whatever. We're just offering up a service. And that's where the big change is going to come from as we go through this part. In your experience, sort of with enterprise organizations, what's the major reason they want to adopt a cloud? Because everybody seems to be doing that nowadays.
So from my experience, when I talk to most of the organizations, and there was a myth that people are going to cloud because they want to save cost. Yes, that's one of, it's always, as a business, there's always a reason you want to have your bottom line lower and you want to save cost. But moving to cloud, the major reason is agility. They want to make it very simple and agile so that because the business demands, the market is moving very fast and your competitors are moving very fast. So you want to make sure you can change with the market and be fast, be quick. Time to market, time to reach customers first, time to most of the features that you want to develop if you're an application development company, you want to have them in production as soon as possible. So agility is the major reason, and then cost comes after that.
I'd imagine that every year there's budget meetings that take place, and they're asking the IT departments to look ahead, to predict what they're going to need 2 or 3 years down the road. You want to buy a new server? Well, how many processors do you give them? How much memory are you going to need 2 years from now? I don't know. But I guess the cloud model gives us the opportunity to sort of buy as we need.
Yeah, because now you can, it's an on-demand model. Whether a utility company you want to pay by month, their subscription, that's how you pay is different, but how you consume, you can actually now consume and scale without waiting for servers to be added. Whether it's a private cloud or public cloud, you can actually manage this better. And I always use the word cost efficiency instead of cost saving, because cost savings is not the reason. You want to be efficient. So cloud gives you that way to enable you to be efficient at everything, delivering an IT service.
Excellent. So I think one of the other shifts that we're seeing is a shift in support when it comes to how do we support these. There was the day and age when IT was responsible for the hardware up. They were responsible for the desktop computer, they plugging all the cables in, making sure the keyboard and mouse worked, and then they stacked the software, the OS, and everything on top of that, and they were responsible for all that. And now we're moving into a sort of a different, a BYOD, a bring your own device world, where we want to have different devices out there. We want to have tablets. We want to have iPhones and Windows 8 tablets and iPads, and everybody wants to sort of use what they're comfortable with. So we end up in a sort of a BYOD. And one of the examples that came to mind when we talk about this is telephone. I mean, there was a time when the telephone companies were responsible for every phone in the house. Yes. And now they're responsible for the jack in the wall where they come in. And everything else beyond that is your responsibility, the demarcation point. And I'm seeing the same thing sort of happen in the IT world, which is the browser and the internet connection become the demarc. You know, do you have an internet connection? Does your browser work? Great, I can help you. If not, call your provider or get hold of somebody who, you know, will switch the device out for you very quickly. The requirement is no longer from the hardware up. It is really a little bit higher than that.
There's an abstraction layer now because the devices, consumers of people actually have lots of good devices now, and it's just it's about coming back to empowering users, empowering your employees. You know, if you have a good computer and you want to empower them to use the computer and also use personal and work. And so cloud enables that. So BYOD is, even though it's not just pure cloud, you can actually do it without cloud model. But cloud, when you go to a cloud model, the scalability, the agility, and the automation and orchestration, everything is there.
So back to that sort of idea of having it on demand, having it when I want it. At the coffee shop. So I think it also, we've talked about this as well, it offers some smarter investments, the ability for organizations to respond quickly to change and allow investments to be better matched to their needs, and to sort of avoid the multi-year commitment. I don't have to spend $1 million, $5 million data center to do these sort of things. Okay, so we need to move on at this point and take a look at how this is going to shift some roles for our audience here, for, you know, how does this going to affect the IT group? Probably not a bad time, just before we get into that, is to have a look at our next polling question. And I just want to find out, in your own environment there, what's going on? For cloud computing, as you see it, is it, you know, part of a current project? Are you part of a past project with cloud? You know, it could be part of an upcoming project you know of. Are you not part of any projects? Or is it just something you need to understand more about? And we'll give you a chance to sort of see where companies are working when it comes to cloud. And I got to nudge you, we're going to probably jump into another poll question. Are we good with that one? How's that coming up there? Just, boom, there we go. So 26% of you, isn't that neat, are actually working on a current cloud project. That's great. Some of you have already finished up some projects. 21% of you are looking at upcoming projects. So all of a sudden, we're looking at almost half of you there that are involved in a cloud project right now. So obviously, this is a big movement that's going on right now. It's fantastic. Interesting enough, I thought we can move to, I think our third call question was the company view on cloud computing. Do we have that one? I just want to see if this is an interesting one we can put back to back with this. Okay. I know we had that poll question. That's fine. We will see if we can dig it up and come back to it. But let's move on for now anyway. So the shift here is underway. And what we're looking at here is that IT is no longer simply a department. We're talking about provide shared level of functionality to the entire organization. We're talking about the effective to all departments. IT now has to sort of act as the internal consultant. Vijay, a little while ago you were talking about having hybrid clouds where you had the public part of your public cloud going on, you had private cloud going on, you may be part of a community cloud, and obviously you're probably getting resources from different companies and different groups to make all this thing happen. Somebody has to sort of manage that and be able to ask the right questions within the company. I think that's probably one of the big changes that it's been.
It is, and before, most of the companies I involved, there's technology standards, and we only buy this kind of technology. This is our architecture standard. So it doesn't matter what type of project comes in, we actually put in the same technology and same architecture. But now IT actually have an option. Say, based on the business requirement, based on the application design and architecture, and based on the data it's going to have, now there are lots of options for IT. So if the business needs this, I don't have to put this, that. For example, there's a web application. It's going to have no personal information. I don't have to buy this expensive hardware and take time to do it. I can just go to a public cloud and get it up and running in a minute.
Yeah.
So those are the decisions are going to be made by a group of people, and that they're going to talk about it.
That have this knowledge already. Yeah, I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's well into cars, and if I was going to go buy a new car, he would come along with me because, you know, he has the expertise. So we need that expertise. We can't just go out and sort of surrender ourselves to every provider out there.
And also, when you talk about the cloud, and there are lots of different type of clouds and different type of cloud service providers. Now you have to look at what I have to now look for. You know, what do I have to know about these cloud service providers? What are the right questions to ask? Do they have the capabilities that I'm looking for? So now we are going to go into this evaluation mode to a new breed of providers. So that knowledge had to be built.
And that knowledge has to come from probably the IT department we already have. Yeah, and that's where we already have the internal knowledge. So I think one of the shifts, just to sort of, you know, summarize a little bit here, is that, you know, we have the goal of IT, and traditionally that was all about operations and uptime. And that was talking about servers and backups and restore points and things that, you know, we really don't need to know from a business point of view. The role right now is, can we provide that service and make that service there? I mean, can we provide a service that actually demonstrates that we have a return on that investment? Are we, you know, and month by month, are we paying for the right thing? Have we bought? And a lot of times in the past, that was sort of overlooked because we bought $1 million worth of server equipment. Don't dare ask whether or not, you know, we made the right decision. We've already spent it. Here we're spending month by month, so we get to make those decisions month by month. I think impact is definitely, we talked earlier about support was the original goal of IT. And the new goal of IT really is business impact.
Enabling business.
Enabling business. How can we make business better? How can we, you know, if they want collaboration, how can we give them collaboration? If they want to be able to be more mobile, how do we make them more mobile? So it's an enabling. And I know a lot of this enabling right now is coming from different parts of the business. There's the real estate department of different businesses are looking at ways of spending their real estate dollar better. And they'll be looking to IT to come up with these sort of decisions and these ways of doing it. The organizational structure, I think, is going to change into teams of people who can now manage what's going on out there. And then control. It's no longer that sort of hierarchical control that IT says this is the way things are going to go and that's the way it is. We got self-provisioning, we have BYOD. Control is more about making it available instead of putting limitations. I mean, a lot of companies out there look to IT as being a limiter. Oh, IT won't let me do this, or IT won't let me do that. And that's changing right now to IT is enabling me to use my iPad, to use my Windows tablet. IT is enabling me to work at the coffee shop or work when I'm on vacation. I've heard a new thing where vacations are split at this point, where people who are taking vacations work vacations. So they are working they're going vacationing in the evening and the afternoon and working in the morning because they have the ability to do so. One of the things we sort of have to split here and have a look at is that the role and where IT land is going to be in two different places. We're going to have people who deliver IT and make IT available, and we're going to have people who consume that IT out of the cloud. So people who are offering cloud services, like your company offers cloud services, and the people who have to use those cloud services. Where do you see these people sort of landing?
So if you look at the delivery people, I call them the cloud grid operators. You know,
yeah.
I kind of usually use the cloud as you know, similar to the electrical grid. You know, these grid operators and the power generation guys, these are the providers of cloud services. That's where the delivery people are going to land. And one of the things that's going to happen to the delivery organizations Before we talked about this silo IT delivery organization where there was a network, security, servers, and systems. In order to deliver an efficient cloud, that system has to be, the whole organization has to be converged. So what that means to a person, if you are, let's say, a network engineer, now the network engineer has to be a converged network engineer, we call it cloud engineer,
yeah.
No longer just the network. Now you have to understand an in-depth and end-to-end technology, so front-end firewall to the back-end servers and storage and virtualization. So that's how the whole job is going to change into. The teams are going to be converged. Because I mentioned that the way that the traditional organizations were put together to match it with the actual technology, there was a separate switch and separate firewall. Not anymore. So you see one small box called a server, for example. Within there's a hypervisor. They put a virtual switch, a virtual firewall, a virtual load balancer. Now these are 3 or 4 different groups already. If there's a problem, you don't want to have all these 5 people logging in at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to troubleshoot. It's not going to happen. And it cannot deliver a service like that. So it is a mandatory that everybody has to learn everything and become a cloud engineer end-to-end. That's where you drive efficiency too.
That makes sense, definitely.
And the other one is the consumers of IT. So this is the people delivering. The consumers are the organizations where the IT is not the core business. They have to do IT today in order to deliver it. So those organizations are more and more, they're going to start consuming the cloud services rather than running and developing their own IT.
And that's where we talk about the internal being consultants more than,
Yeah, they become now enablers and business IT rather than just running around and delivering a server.
So we're going to see new roles emerge. And we can look so far ahead. We go back 20 years, and we wouldn't have known or wouldn't have seen the need for a security guy on site all the time because everybody had personal desktops. So, today we have security managers, we have security experts on site because this network has grown and grown. And I think we're going to see the same sort of idea. We're going to see new roles emerge out there: security architect, developers, cloud infrastructure managers. This is sort of a new help desk model, I think. If we take a look at the browser being the first point of support, cloud provider specialists. So all these are sort of going to change as we move forward here. Just take a look at a couple of new roles here. We've got a sort of cloud resource manager, and we've got the description here as a manages cloud software and infrastructure for private or public cloud environments. The new skills they're going to require is sort of a heavy analytical to cope with the deep technical knowledge that's going to come up here. A broad understanding of technology and the systems. They're going to have to know what's connecting to them, what's coming in and going from them. And so capacity management, almost an accounting role for planning, demanding, forecasting, and trending analysis to understand all this.
Exactly what we were talking about. When they bought $1 million equipment, it was okay because we had lots of capacity. You didn't have to really do lots of demand forecasting and demand management. Now the business is going to ask, am I spending it right? And you are going to now grow with your services. So now you have to have very detailed analysis of demand and trending.
And depending how close I get that, I may be making changes. If I'm an online retailer coming towards holiday season, I may see a spike and I may have to react quickly. And can I purchase and bring these services up and bring these services down?
And your budgeting exercise have to align with that.
Yes. Okay. Well, month by month, definitely. So again, new changes for a new role there. Security consultant. So we talked about security a moment ago, but I mean responsibility for all aspects of the organization's cloud solution. Works closely with the organization to understand their needs and potential risks. So they're going to find out right from the iPhones and the Android phones and the Blackberries and that sort of everybody's got different security needs.
One of the this new cloud security consultant role was what's going to enable. Usually, if you look at the security guys, they are kind of policing.
Yes.
What this role is going to be, instead of policing role, it's going to be more enabler role. is going to help business to understand which application and which data can be in a private cloud, can be in a public cloud, in a community cloud. So that kind of understanding and enable the business to make the right decisions and also help them to govern those decisions.
And if I turn to my security expert and said, I want to be on a beach next week, can you make that happen for me? They're going to look at the security to make that enabled for me, instead of saying, nope, you leave the walls, you don't get to have any access to the, So yeah, definitely more of enabling. So the new skills will be to understand cloud terminology and some security models. I'm assuming they're going to be working with external vendors, so they have to understand what vendors are bringing into play on a regular basis, because they're the security experts. The vendors are getting upgraded regularly on their security, so they're going to have to be able to work with them and understand new security techniques.
Especially when they go to a community or a community cloud or public cloud, they really have to understand the risk and assess the risk and help the business to make the right decision.
Yep, definitely. Now, again, anybody in a security role is halfway there to doing these sort of things already.
Exactly.
The help desk, I think, is going to be an interesting one. We've touched on this along the way. So support remote users, BYOD at various locations, support service provisioning using multiple configurations of technologies. So the new skills here, I think, will be sort of to support multiple technologies, to multiple configurations, to understand who could be doing what, who could be involved here. Somebody calling in, understand it from the browser up, as we talked about. I mean, the current skills right now as a help desk is great. They can ask the right questions and get to the right answers. But I'm seeing them probably more involved with different vendors as well to bring services online, offline. As somebody calls up and says, I'm traveling here, I'm doing this, I need access to this. I need an account because I want to use an online office program of some sort. Can you set me up? And I think they'll be doing some of that management as well, along with the sort of original help desk.
And understanding what the technologies out there, because when you talk about BYOD, people are going to bring their own devices.
Yeah.
So you need to, the help desk people have to understand what is out there, what is happening, and understanding the cloud, private cloud, public cloud differences. So there's the skill set. They need to understand it, kind of broaden the skill set.
Definitely. But I think it does get them away from the hardware. It gets them away from the old-fashioned question, have you rebooted? Is it plugged in? Is it turned on? That's no longer the issue for the help desk. Your device is there, it's on. Do you have internet access? Is your browser open? Good. Now we'll start troubleshooting you from there. So I think we just moved that demarc point that we talked about. So what I want to find out from you, and that's one of the great things about having you here, is that you provide some of these services through Cloud Dynamics. So my first question, I got two questions I want to sort of ask you when it comes to this. Is, first of all, who are you hiring?
So when we look at it, we provide, we manage very large private cloud infrastructures. So initially what we did, we actually hired people from different disciplines, from network, from firewall, from server and storage, and put them together and cross-train them. So we didn't go through a big training. So the cross-training is very important.
Yeah.
And also, we wouldn't even educate the training. So the network person can go and take some courses on the servers and storage. And they can take multiple different skill sets and cross-train them and put them to work that more. Remove that the political boundary. So today there's a boundary. There's an organization that there's a roles and responsibilities, they call it. You don't touch the other one.
Yeah.
This is you, network. You don't touch the servers. But if you remove that boundary and let them be creative and innovative and cross-train each other, they become an excellent cloud engineering team. And that's exactly what we did. We also tested with, we hired students, co-op students, who came from no preconceived ideas of silo organization.
Yeah.
We put them in the same group without any political boundaries. We're basically free. You can go here, switch servers, firewalls. They learned everything. And it is not an issue. People can learn it. You just have to remove that boundary. And once you do that, they will learn. And anybody who has any skills, that's an asset. Now the organization have to remove that boundary and let them learn the other ones, they will learn it.
Excellent. So my second part of this question is, so you deal with companies. Who are you dealing with at the companies? Who are you talking to when you say, we've got this service to provide you? Is there IT people on the other side that are talking to you? And
we actually talk. Usually, cloud starts with as a management play.
Yeah.
So everybody want to go to cloud, or they want to have cloud in there. Then we actually start with the senior management, and then bring in the IT team. And I had lots of meetings with the IT team. They're actually excited because now, organizationally, politically, that boundary is going to be removed by providing this cloud. So they are excited to learn other technologies. People are excited to learn new things, and it's actually empowering them. So usually, most of the players, when we go in there, IT teams are excited, and they're open-minded, and they want to learn other stuff.
They're moving away from the break fix.
And we help them actually to have the organizational boundary to be removed. So we create this cloud team and a cloud engineering team. There's no boundary. You learn everything, and they're happy to do that.
And they feel more skilled and more
and more empowered.
And more empowered. Excellent. Excellent. So I think we've sort of seen an evolution here. I mean, we started back in the past as a jack of all trades, where the one IT guy knew a bit about everything. And then we went into very specialist roles where because we had all these services in-house, and you had security specialists, you had messaging specialists, you had network specialists, you had, and I think we're going back a little bit to say, you got to be jack of all trades with knowledge in different areas, but you really need the knowledge. You can't just be surface knowledge anymore. It has to be sort of a depth knowledge, but you need multiple knowledge. So we've become a bit of a circle as we moved around. So, I mean, there is a shift coming. There is a change coming. And what I want to take a look at, from what we've discussed here, what makes up the new IT professional? And I think we've got more than just the technology to look at. We need those technology skills. I mean, they're not going away. But we need leadership skills. We need communication skills. We've got to work as a team. We've got business process skills. ITIL Foundation was built on the idea of providing services. We've got vendor management. Even at the lowest level, sometimes we have vendor management because our help desk is calling out and getting services set up for us with our vendors. The current IT skills are very valid. I mean, we're still talking about email services. We're still talking about firewalls and networking. We're still talking about, applications and that sort of thing in development. But now we're doing it in a different way. We need to add to that some communication skills. We need to add to that an understanding what business really wants from us as an IT team. And we need to make sure we've got more technology skills, because as much as we know about one particular technology skill, now we need to understand how we get there, how we get from there, how we're going to deliver that service down. And even if we're not a developer, understanding developer lifecycle would be good for us. Even if we're not we're a developer, maybe understanding cloud and how things get hosted in the cloud will be good knowledge for us. So we've got to make sure we understand the different parts as we go through here. So hopefully we get people excited about that sort of idea. So from a leadership point of view, we've got a number of different ways of doing this within our own. At Global Knowledge here, we've got active leadership and strategic decision making, communication courses from communication clarity, presentation skills, conflict resolution, communication, and then influence and change management. This is probably a big part of what's going on because it is a change for everybody at this particular point. From the business process side of things, ITIL is probably a great part of this because it's all about how to provide a service and probably manage service.
Well, one of the important things that I tell people that they think that cloud is the process point of view is going to go and change the whole process. It's actually, in order to deliver and consume cloud, the ITIL has to be implemented in full form. So most of the time, organizations actually just use some portions of the ITIL. For example, change management and incident management, CMDB, configuration management, demand management. These are the modules people usually don't touch a lot, and they stick with the change management and incident management. But in order to deliver or consume cloud, you have to have the entire ITIL implemented in a proper form. So ITIL is very important. So cloud, I always talk about, you think about cloud demands more discipline. So having just one or two modules of ITIL implemented is not enough anymore. You have to have the full ITIL implementation in order to deliver and consume cloud.
That makes sense, definitely, because we've got more to take care of. Project management, definitely, because these things are going to run as projects. They're going to run, beginnings and ends, things like that, and having project managers involved. If you're asking a project manager or a business analyst to speak a little bit of IT and to be able to bring IT requests to you in a way that makes sense to you, then you've got to come meet them the other way. And it's time for you to sort of learn what is a project manager, what is a business analyst looking from you as an IT professional that is going to make sense. You sort of, what are scopes, what are case studies, those sort of things. And then you mentioned cross-training. Exactly. We're talking about networking, security, software development. You need to understand what the infrastructure really is. You need to understand what virtualization is all about. Security, the BYOD, firewalls, policy, VPNs. How does this play out? Software development. Developing for a mobile platform, developing with HTML5 or Java, or and even if you're not a developer, understanding what they go through. And if you are a developer, you need to understand the other part of it as well. So everybody has to sort of be aware of the rest of the team.
Especially in the networking world, if you look at it, the server virtualization, it is there, it is done, it's kind of maturing. Network actually is the next one is going to be virtualized and automated in a big time. This is where the SDN comes in, the software-defined networking, and the end-to-end virtualization of the entire infrastructure. So there are lots. The cloud is bringing lots of new ways of delivering IT efficiently.
I think it's probably time. I want to do one last poll here. I think we've got a poll question we can do. We've given you some options. We'll give some thoughts here, but let's have a quick poll question to see, for the IT professionals on the line here. If you're an IT professional, how do you see your role in the future? As a consultant, as an expert, as a project manager, or probably staying the same. Where do you see that you're sort of falling as you move forward 5 years? We'll give them a sort of a chance to sort of think that over and give some answers in there. How are we doing? Has everybody sort of had a chance to sort of answer and put their views in?
Yeah, we'll pull that off.
Excellent. I'm interested to see what the answer to this one is, because I don't know, we've given people sort of different things to think about here, but let's see what we come out. Isn't that interesting? So 32% of you see yourself more as an IT consultant, 25% expert. So you see there's definitely two different roles, and we mentioned there's two different ways to go there. I see a lot of you sort of moving over to the project management. I don't know if that's because we have a lot of project managers on this call that sort of jumped in that, maybe then. And then some of you see your role staying the same. And that's interesting. We didn't define that question well, because maybe they're already in the role that they want to be in, and and they're seeing themselves. Maybe they're ahead of us here. So, but it's interesting how that breaks out. Okay. So I just want to have a look here, just to sort of summarize a little bit of what we've talked about. We know that IT roles are going to change. They're going to shift while we're in the cloud here. We're going to be building new skills. I think that's sort of a given at this point. Is that the skills today are great, and you still need those skills, but the skills tomorrow will require a little bit more. You've got to find a way to sort of get ready for this upcoming wave and where things are going to go here. We've actually got a new tool that's coming out very soon. This is sort of a cloud assessment tool, which is going to help you sort of assess your abilities here in the cloud. Did you have any final thoughts, or we got some questions too?
So cloud is an opportunity, not just for businesses, even individually. Because as an individual, now we can define ourselves more aligned with the business and be worth to the business.
Yeah.
And I can know, I can do more to help the business to do more. So it's actually giving me, as a personal IT person, giving you an opportunity to become more defined and more supportive, more enabled.
Yeah.
It's an empowerment.
Excellent.
And it's an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely see it that way. Sarah, do we have any questions come through before we finish up?
We do have some really great questions. I just want to remind everyone just to use your questions pane in your box if you do want to ask a question. We might not get to everyone, but we certainly will make an effort to respond to everybody. So make sure you type in your question in the box. So we do have a question. Would the definition of a private cloud include a current organization in-house set of resources and services to its employee customers?
So private cloud. So again, coming back to the technologically, what cloud is doing is using the if it's a private cloud, yes, it's in control. So number one, if you already have the resources, that you have it in control. But what cloud allows, technologically, the full-blown automation and orchestration. So most of the traditional infrastructures, what they lack is some of them are fully virtualized, but not just enough. Virtualizing compute is not just enough to call it a cloud. So cloud, you need to be able to deliver an end-to-end service within that infrastructure in minutes or hours. So in order to do that, the automation and orchestration, end-to-end automation and orchestration is important. So if you have the resource and if you have the full-blown end-to-end automation and orchestration with the processes defined for that, then you have private cloud. Excellent.
So always a question that comes up, and you guys are experts in the cloud, and I'm fully aware that you're not legal experts.
Oh, it's a security question.
But everyone asks about security.
Yes.
So if you could give us your thoughts, there's a specific question about private data. How do you protect it from external hackers? What kind of internal infrastructure and the management team? So can you just give us your thoughts? I know we could spend a whole afternoon on it.
I could kind of talk about, because I came from the health sector. So before this, I'm very familiar with the health sector, personal health information, the privacy laws, and there are some data that there are even laws that some data have to be in some geographical. For example, some of the health data, if it's a personal health information, you cannot leave Canada. It has to be within Canada. So that there are, based on your data and the requirement for the data, you will choose your cloud. And security, well, that's what I was explaining, that in a private and public cloud, the public cloud is not just shared, the infrastructure. The applications going into the public cloud, most of the security is pushed to the application layer. The application can handle it. That's where the existing enterprise applications, they choose more private cloud because the applications are built to depend on the infrastructure and the infrastructure security. So yes, it is important. It is an important question. That's why we talked about the security consultants. That's what they make the decision based on your data and application architecture.
The one thing I'd add to that, and I said this to the crowd the other day when we talked about the BA, is that there's a lot of water cooler conversation going on. There's a lot of people have speculation what they think might be going on with security in the cloud and everything else. And I would encourage everybody to really sort of research this and have a look at what really is going on with security in the cloud. There's a lot of rumors.
Yeah, and one of the reality that everybody have to agree, not all your application and all your data has to be in a private cloud. So using security as a roadblock, or I don't want to go to cloud because security is not the right thing to do. What you have to understand is your application, your data, and there are lots of data and lots of application. You really don't have to be in a private cloud scenario. You can use public cloud. So that assessment is something that you can do as a business.
So we have time for one more.
Okay.
So for backing up data to the cloud, what are the key concerns that a consumer must be aware of?
The major issue is bandwidth. So there's a thing called data gravity. So when the data is big and you want to back it up to cloud, and your bandwidth has to be, and the performance of the bandwidth is is going to be your concern. Other than security, because security can be easily overcome in a backup scenario. You can encrypt files, you can use encrypted connections, but your actual network bandwidth is going to be one of your major constraints, other than anything else.
Now, hopefully, I mean, when we talk about backup, there's two ways to back up. We back up everything all at once. That's going to take a lot of bandwidth, a lot of time, and everything else. But once that initial part is done, usually we're talking about delta backups.
Yeah.
So it becomes a trickle at that point, and that becomes very manageable. So sometimes it's the initial, jumping on that takes the biggest chunk. But everything else, we talk about the deltas as we go along. So
one of the major security cloud services people are using actually backup in the cloud, because you can easily overcome security issues just by encrypting it.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. That was a great presentation, some great Q&As, and we will, again, send out a recording of the webinar. If we didn't get to your question, we will reach out to you individually. If you do have any further questions, please respond to that email. And just a reminder, we will be having part 3 of this webinar series on Tuesday. That is the key role of the project manager. So visit globalknowledge.ca/control shift to register. Thank you so much, Andrew and BJ.
Thank you.
You may now disconnect.